Okay, let's take our YouTube transcript and turn that into a post that's useful for our case study drumming site, Sticks Talk. So we'll use make.com to take the transcript from Airtable, repurpose the transcript, turn it into a summary using ChatGPT via the API, and then send that back into Airtable again. Let's look. We have our webhook helper available so that I can test passing data. Instead of going into Airtable and sending the test data from here, I'm going to use this module to send the test packet of data into this scenario that we're building here. Let's click into this scenario. I will give you the blueprint available to download to your device and then upload into your Make account. So we have a webhook, which is already set up, and I've tested it using the helper. Let's do that again though. So if we go to run this module only, that puts it into waiting for data mode. We go and run this test packet of data, send that in, and that's worked successfully. So that gives us something to set up. So in Airtable then, I've made the correct connection. We targeted the content creation base, which we're building out. And let's put this a bit closer here. And we are targeting the content staging table, which is the only table we have in our base at the moment. It's this one here. And if I clear this just to show you how we did that, we click in the record ID and then we're calling out to the previous module. So that will automate every time. Click OK. And I'll hit save. Let's go to the end just while we're in Airtable mode. We're targeting the correct Airtable account or authentication. The base is the content creation base and content staging, and the record ID is being taken from Airtable step 2. We could just as easily take the record ID from the incoming packet of data in the webhook. That would be fine as well. So if we run this module, it doesn't clear everything in the Airtable record. It just updates wherever there is data. So if you leave anything blank in here, it's fine. And we don't have to map all the data from step 2 into Airtable 6. As long as it's blank, then it'll be considered void. And so we won't blank out any of the record that we already have in Airtable. We need a place after the YouTube API transcript. We need a place to send our summarized transcript. So let's go back to Airtable and we'll set that up. Get YouTube transcript, check YouTube transcript, and then let's say, because this is a manual step, so let's duplicate this view and let's call this get formatted summary. What I mean by that is we're going to ask ChatGPT to take the transcript, to summarize the transcript, and to format it with HTML tags so that we are ready to pull that into Webflow afterwards. Need to update our publishing stage. We want to say, add an option, get formatted summary. Let's click outside of that. If I hit return now, it adds on an extra one. I have to click to X out of it. So I normally just finish typing and click away from it. If finish typing and hit return, it adds a new one and I need to X out of it. So I normally just finish typing and then click out of it. And then let's drag this further up the hierarchy. And here, click save. Get formatted summary will be dependent on that status. Publishing stage, that's ready to go. So let's go and set up our webhook, our outgoing webhook from Airtable. And we need to get this webhook here. Copy address to clipboard and go back to our automations. Get YouTube transcript. Let's duplicate this one. And this is get formatted summary. So when record enter to view, which view? We're going to say get formatted summary view. Use a suggested record. Let's go back into here. Let's take our example one, change the status so it's available inside of the automations. So get formatted summary. Use a suggested record. Hopefully that'll see the one that we just moved. Okay, that was successful. Pro sounding beginner drummer, that's good. Run a script. We need to edit the code. This variable stands because it'll just pull the record in. And let's see what I have. Okay, so I have that webhook URL and I want to put it in here. Let's get this right. So I just want to be right before the question mark through to HTTPS, delete, paste. Okay, that should be good. Let's go over here and run this module only. So the webhook is waiting for data, and we'll go back to test the automation. We'll say test. We can wait here to see if it's successful over here, or we can go back to make to have a look. So it appears to have run successfully, and with test and make, that's fine as well. SJS on the end, SJS on the end. So that's fine. We are in good shape there. We're going to finish editing. And we'll click the automation on. So now when a record moves into the get formatted summary view, then we're going to send a webhook out and make will catch it. Let's see where we are. We have a place to, no, we need a place. YouTube API transcript. So let's add on long text. Let's call this ChatGPT formatted summary. And by formatted, I just mean that it's wrapped in HTML tags, so it's ready to go into Webflow. Create field. Okay, we're good. It's going to make, so we'll receive the webhook. Airtable gets the record. Let's go in here. Grab this for testing. Output bundle is this ID. It's an Airtable ID. You can run this module, the Airtable one, paste in the record ID that I just pulled from the webhook. Okay, that seems happy. When we have the YouTube API transcript, and that's the part that we're going to send into ChatGPT. We have an OpenAI ChatGPT Whisper DALL-E module in make.com. This is how we would get to that. I right-clicked inside the canvas, and I would search at the bottom for OpenAI. I can read from here, create a completion. So we would just search through, and it would be this one here. And it's just prompting us to say, before you interact with this module, you need to connect it to the flow of the automation somewhere. You can connect it automatically. I'm just going to say cancel, and I'm just going to delete this module. So we look to see how we have this module set up. First of all, if you're coming in here for the first time to do this, then you need to make a connection, as we have done with the Airtable and data for SEO modules. You need to establish an OpenAI account, add a card for billing, and then we can set up the API. This is where you would go to do that. If we go to platform.openai.com and settings, and then just that URL there, and then we're down here, organization in general. So this is where we are. Okay, once you have a funded OpenAI account, then we can set up the module. Let's take this a bit closer. If I was to make a new connection, I would click add, and I could change the label, and we need an API key and an organization ID. In platform.openai.com/settings, then you can go to general and you can see your organization ID. But you take your organization ID and you can add that into this input here. And then the API key is available just down here. So you would go to create a new secret key. You would label the key, my optional label, and default project, and create secret key, which would look like this. So I would copy that key, and I would go back into make.com and paste that key in here. And then I would click save, and that would establish the connection between make.com and your OpenAI account. What I will do is I'll kill that last key that I made, and I already have one set up in make.com already. So select the account you want to use, and let's set up this module. Select method, create a chat completion, GPT and O1 models. So that's the most up-to-date one. And then which model do we want to use? I'm just going to say that I'm using the latest model, because I know that the latest model is the one that will get me the best results. It may be the most expensive in terms of credits, but I want to start there. And moving forward, I'm going to pay attention to what I'm paying for the API, and maybe I can find a balance between a cheaper model and still to get good enough creativity for my personal use case, so I can balance cost and creative output that I get from the model. But right now, I don't want to mess around with that. I just want good output. So I'm going to select ChatGPT Photo Latest, and then I'm going to set up 2 messages. Okay. So the way to get these messages to appear, to add a message, I'll scroll down, add a third one. You just click on add message. Okay. You're going to define the role. Are you going to prompt the system, or are you going to prompt the user? We're not going to get into assistants at the moment, but are you going to prompt the system or prompt the user? That's the decision to make. And so the first message that I'm going to send a message to the system. I'm going to prompt the model to say, this is how I want you to act. These are the parameters that I want you to operate within, and this is the output that I'm looking for. And I'll start with that. And then when I go to the next message that I'm going to send in the same packet of data, I'm going to say, okay, this is a user prompt now. And I'm going to say that this transcript that comes from the last module, which is our YouTube transcript, I'm going to feed that in, and that's all I'm going to put. And then I'm going to send it. I'm going to put 0 tokens so that there's no limit on the tokens. Again, I just want the best output to begin with. Then I can look at balancing cost and output later on. So let's have a look at this prompt. So we are all going to have different use cases for this particular module. So what I've done is I've had a conversation with ChatGPT, and I've just prompted ChatGPT to ask for help in defining the prompt. I've had a conversation, and by the time I get to the end of the conversation, I have a usable prompt with something that looks uh, close to what I need. So I'm setting up the automation. I have something that gets me super close to what I need, and then I can dial this in later as well. Okay, this is the quick conversation that I had with ChatGPT. So I'm asking the model for help with how to prompt the model. That's just where I always start, and then I can dial in from there. But I've said, here's a transcript from a video. I'd like to ask for your help. Wait for my questions now, please. And then I often just put this dot dash dash, and then I have the initial prompt. I put that in as a separator, and then I add in whatever content that I'm asking the model um, to adapt or to repurpose for me. And we see, great. Feel free to ask any questions or let me know how I can assist with the transcript. Okay. So then I say, I need you to help me define a prompt that I can use for every other YouTube video summary that I ask you to help me with. And then just in bullet points, I need a summary. I need the output to have no added commentary from you, just the summary itself. That's important, obviously, because if we're going to take the output directly from the model and then push it into Webflow, we don't want there to be an extra editing step if we can avoid it. And then I've said, ChatGPT has said, to make future requests even more streamlined, here are a few considerations you might add. Now that's fine. It's super helpful, but I don't want to mess around with it. So I've just said, help me define the prompt and make suggestions to include in the prompt that you think would be helpful. The target audience for the content is beginner drummers learning drums and early in the process. Kids and adults will read the content, so it's important that the language is family friendly. What prompt should I use every time? And there's a little bit of a back and forth here. Here's a comprehensive prompt. Summarize the following video transcript. And it goes through here, and then it says it's giving bullet points that it will receive that it's defined as being useful in this use case. Audience, the length, the structure. This is from my request, no commentary, only the summary with no additional input or opinions. Integrate keywords like beginner drummers, drum fill, drumming technique, and learning drums. I thought that was a useful addition. The model suggested that. I didn't prompt that. And so I've said, how do I respond to that? Update the line. And I meant to paste in the line. I forgot to do that. Update the line so that you don't define the keywords, but that we should request relevant keywords so that the keywords are updated every time and relevant to the particular summary I provide you with. Here's the updated prompt. So here's another one. And then I can see the output here includes divs, and we don't want divs because we don't want to create any extra formatting while we put the post in. We just want to format the content. And I've said, let's try this with the summary I provided you with. So we're testing now. I'm saying, here's the prompt for testing. I paste in the prompt, and I'm copying and pasting the prompt as we go down the conversation, just so that I preserve it. And when I'm happy with it, then I'll paste it into Make. We get to this part and I say, okay, we don't wrap the content in a div. And then we only use language which is friendly, maintains language in line with the style of conversation found in the transcript to avoid having anything that resembles the closing remarks reference you included in that last test. I just think that closing remarks is not a great subhead. It's not a great H2 to have in there. Comes back, here's the defined prompt. I said, okay, let's try that again with the initial transcript. We get this output that looks pretty good. And I was just asking it to clean up the styling of the prompt. And so that's the conversation that I had. I'm asking the model for help with how to prompt the model. It's a bit meta, but it's effective. So then if we go back to make.com, this is the prompt that I've pasted in. When I pasted it in, it went in unformatted. So I just quickly went through, added some spacing just for readability so that when we come back to review it, we can see how to interact with it better. And that's where the prompt came from. So if we click OK, We can save this and let's see what we get. If we just run the whole thing, I'm going to say run once so that the whole thing runs once as opposed to clicking on the webhook and just running that particular module. And then if I go and send some data in, we'll see the model work and we got an error. No problem. We have to troubleshoot, but let's go and figure out what's going on. And I don't know what's going on. I just want to figure it out just now. Okay, so it's 400 error, which means it's an invalid value for content. Expected a string got null. Okay, so if we click on the module, it's this one here. So this transcript has failed. So if we just remap that. So we want to pull something from Airtable 2, which is this data here, and we want the YouTube transcript. Which is here. And actually, that should have been obvious in that it's now highlighted in blue. And prior to that, it was just outlined in blue with a white background. So that was going to be a problem. So let's hit OK. Try that again. This is a good example of how useful this webhook helper is because now we can just send the data back in again. We've saved our automation. We're going to run once. It's waiting for data one time. We'll feed it data and go back. Let's see how it gets on this time. So it's processing, takes a little bit longer, obviously, because it's pinging the API. And stepping along, we've got the record. ChatGPT, let's see what we said. So this is the input bundle. This is what we sent. And then let's see the result. We have an H2 introduction. In this video, CJ walks you through 3 simple yet cool drum fills, perfect for beginner drummers. He provides transcriptions and tips on how to play and apply each fill. Let's break down these fills step by step. Okay, so fill 1, short and sweet. And it's laying out the sticking pattern. That's fine. Fill 2, simple 16th notes with dynamics. And fill 3, open hi-hat fill. Okay. Prompt tokens, just for reference. I won't do any calculations right now, but we have prompt tokens 858, completion tokens 443, and total 1300. Token details. We can use this data to figure out our costs later on and balance cost against creativity and output. Choices, message. Okay. Okay, that's fine. We're going to take this result, this output result. It's a long string. And we'll take the output result and feed it back into Airtable. Content creation base, content staging. We've got the ID from Airtable 2. That's fine. And all the way down to the bottom, ChatGPT formatted summary. We will paste in. What will we paste in? Let's find that. Message role content. Let's just go back for a second and see what we were looking at before. Bundle result. Let's see if we can see the result. Sorry, in here, in Airtable. Let's see if we can feed in the result data. ChatGPT formatted summary and the results at the top. Sorry, I was missing it. So I paste this in. And then let's also say, let's pop in a manual step for now. Check YouTube transcript. So we could say check formatted summary. New publishing stage. Save. Go back to our automation, sorry. And if we go to change the publishing stage, where's that? Okay. So we don't want to map it. We don't want to pull it from a previous module. We want to choose from the dropdown. Let's refresh this data in here. After we added a view in Airtable. So the result is still there in the publishing stage. Check formatted summary. Okay, that's fine. Click OK. Save. And sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so let's go into here and do this again. Update. So we're in check formatted summary. Sorry, I need to update this so that this is just records with that publishing stage. So get formatted summary, we're here. And if we run this scenario again, we'll save, run once, send in the packet, and we'll see what we get back. Okay, if we just check in Airtable, check formatted summary. So we've updated the publishing stage and we have this content here. We're going to have a look at it. So we have an H2 to begin with. So we'll be able to send in now the blog post title. We'll be able to send in the YouTube video. We can send in the formatted summary, which has an H2 paragraph, an unordered list. Oops, daisies. Unordered list, paragraph, and the same as we go down. I'll be interested to know if each of the posts look like this, or if it's just because of the content of this particular post that it's come out with so many bullet points like that. But we can dial in the prompt as we go. Okay. Let's go and find a YouTube video and we'll add that back into the flow and just dial things in so that we have a publishing flow all the way through from using the Chrome extension, the web clipper, to pull the YouTube data into the Airtable. And then we'll use the automations we have live now to see where we are so far to go from the video all the way through to a post ready to push into Webflow. So let's try that for now. We go to this video. I don't really need this part, but we'll grab it. And I could just use an automation step to pull out these references, but I'll just do it manually for now. Okay. Add records. And we should have in the grid view, mind-blowingly simple. So let's start our process. So we have draft content, YouTube transcript. We could even say that the default option in here is draft content. So every time we pull something in, then it'll be defined as draft content. And it's updated already. Get YouTube transcript. Publishing is get YouTube transcript. Okay, that's fine. Let me just try that again. So if I pull in that video again, maybe add the record. Okay, yeah, so we have draft content. Let's delete this earlier one. Delete content. Okay, so we changed the status of this content. Mind-blowingly simple drum exercise. So we can do it from in here or in the other view. So let's change this to get YouTube transcript. And if we just watch this data here, we should have sent that into our live make automation to go and get the transcript back again. So that's it come back again now. And we've updated the publishing stage automatically to check YouTube transcript. So that's good. Got YouTube API transcript here. And we want to go into the next phase to pull in a summary that we can post. So we change the status here, or the publishing stage, to get formatted summary. And I'll scroll down here just to see where we are. And we want to see this populated, but I may not have turned on. Let's run once. Use the existing data that just came out a second ago. Okay, so we have a successful completion. Let's see what we have. Introduction to moving the right hand. That's fine. Looks like the same format in the post. Left hand movements. It's much longer. Okay, that's fine with the conclusion. Okay, so we're in good shape. And all that happened there is that I did not turn on the scenario. So we're in good shape. We can pull in content and we can get the transcript and we can summarize it so that it's ready to go into Webflow. So we still need to create an image. So we'll do that next.